Sounds like good fun. I got one community question, and it's actually appropriate for Steven to be here. People are asking us about our thoughts on the Infestor neural parasite nerf. Jeff, you shake your head. I guess we'll pull the title.
Oh no, it's just a great person to ask. I just recently read a Twitter or something. He said he's going to switch to Protoss if it goes through.
Yeah. Destiny? Thoughts? You got Switch?
I don't know what to say.
And if I read that on the internet, by the way, that's true, Steven. You know that.
Yeah, it's
that
actually
means
been
real.
What's real?
You have to switch.
Oh, I don't know. I've been joking around with it.
I know, I'm kidding.
I don't know. I mean, on face value, I think pretty much everybody from every race can agree that that's kind of a silly nerf. Like at that point, you need to remove neural parasite from the game. I think. Like, am I going to be neural parasiting stalkers now? I think Katz was joking that the immortal range buff was actually a subtle buff to neural parasite. So now when I neural parasite your immortals, I have enough range to reach your colossus, which is the only reason I'm neural parasiting in the first place. I mean, neural parasite is designed for massive units. I don't understand what else I would...
Well, the problem was it made Mothership useless, I think. And now Blizzard's clunky system of massive units are just this, like, label. Like, I think Colossi should be able to be neural parasited and Mothership shouldn't. But I don't know if that's what Blizzard was trying to get at. They're obviously aware that they made Colossi, you know, they buffed them, but it seems just kind of clunky. I mean, do you think you should be able to neural parasite the Mothership?
I do, but against players that are really good with using Motherships, it never happens. The Mothership has an equal range with Vortex to Neural Parasite, and Vortex casts instantly. Neural Parasite has a bit of a delay, and typically the Protoss doesn't have the Mothership perched at the very front of the army. Usually there is a Colossus or something else underneath it. Against players like RSVP uses Motherships quite often, and Kiwikaki uses Motherships quite often. It's really, really hard. Like when I'm playing a game and I'm making decisions on the field, none of my battle plans revolve around trying to Neural Parasite his Mothership, because I don't think it'll ever go off. In my experience, playing against players who have used Motherships a lot. I mean, if you send your Mothership out in front of your army completely defenseless, it'll probably get neuraled, but I think in most real-world scenarios, it seems really, really, really hard to get that off.
Jeff or Sean, thoughts? We got to wrap it up, so...
I mean, I think everyone kind of universally agrees this is too severe. I mean, I would like something like maybe an energy increase on the Neural Parasite spell, or... I don't know. I mean, I'm spitballing here. I haven't sat here and thought long and hard about it, but one thing I guess I can rest assured on is that straight up not allowing it to neural parasite massive units is extremely problematic. I think even more problematic than the Colossus is actually the Thor, because mass Thor against Zerg is damn near unbeatable. You need to have either a huge flock of Broodlords, or you have to have Infestor Roach. There's almost no ifs, ands, or buts about it, so I think that makes that a little bit problematic. But also, of course, the Protoss Death Ball with the Mothership and the Colossus. It seems like this is a little bit too severe of a nerf. However, I don't know if Steven would agree with this. I do think they need to do something to the Infestor, and I don't think the damage reduction to the fungal growth is approaching it. So if they were to revert back on the Neural Parasite and just be like, whoops, sorry, and then they don't do anything else, then this patch doesn't really excite me that much at all, and I think the Ghost needed more work, and I think the Infestor needed more work, unless they remove the Neural Parasite, in which case, like Idra before MLG Raleigh 2010, I will purse my lips and smile and think that it's just fantastic.
Sean, you got any thoughts?
Nothing that hasn't really been hit. I've actually been thinking really long and hard about where Neural Parasite would be used otherwise. I mean, the Thor one seems like the biggest thing. Like, how now will you deal with the huge amount of Thors? Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think about something new that hasn't been said.
When I think of the Neural Parasite nerf, I don't see that having anything to do with ZvT. Like, when I think of that nerf, I think the only balance that's possibly in mind is the ZvP matchup.
Yeah, the Colossus seems like the Colossus and the Archon seems like the big thing for me that it's really hitting. But
it's at the forefront. But watch for Thor, Steven. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But I mean, Protosses are the ones having the most trouble right now, so when I think of them in terms of balancing things, I'm thinking that they're probably most concerned with that. I'm curious, I have like or it's kind of weird, can I ask Noni and In Control, just, it seems to me like when I think about how ZvP is going right now and how Protosses are having trouble with the matchup, like, the way that I view the matchup, it seems like up until maybe like a month and a half, a couple months ago, PvZ has historically always been a really easy matchup. Would you agree with that statement, or would you say that's totally wrong and I'm totally biased? Like, I remember at one point in time, Kiwikaki and Naniwa wouldn't even practice PvZ because they said it was a waste of time to practice, because the only way you could lose the matchup is if you made a really bad mistake.
When the metagame was so terrible that Zergs went Roach into Hydra into Corruptor.
Roach Hydra Corruptor was pretty
very
much
bad.
That era, yeah.
Yeah, that era, that was a long era of ZvP. That was the way to play ZvP forever. And in that time period, as long as the Protoss didn't move out and lose his whole army or do something silly, there was no way for Protoss to lose. I think that in that time period, I think Zergs were really frustrated with the matchup and spent a lot of time learning different timings and different builds. And the result of Zergs being constantly destroyed in that matchup has got us to this point today, where it seems like Zergs have so many different builds, PvZ, or ZvP, where Protosses are like I can't defend against everything. Like, I can't just open like this build. Like, there's Infestors to worry about. You've got Baneling drops to worry about. Some people still do Mutiling. They've got these Burrow Roach timings. Like, since Zergs have been kind of backed into this corner and destroyed on this matchup for so long, they've kind of been forced to find all these different builds. And now that Protosses are finally running up against builds that are different from Roach Hydra Corruptor, it seems like they haven't had any time to really do anything different. Like, PvZ has been a really static matchup for a long time, and as of like just a month and a half ago, Protosses have been finally challenged to, like, you have to do something different now. Because
we have to understand, the game was balanced through that too. The one Gateway Forge expand went away because the Zealot timing was reduced. Several damage reductions, Void Rays were nerfed. Protoss has been getting nerfed throughout that era and into this one, whereas Zergs have been getting buffs as well. So yes, there is certainly a metagame like cultivation going on there where Protoss had success, so why change it, because it's not broke. And the Zergs are working on different things, but there was also balance changes going on throughout that as well.
Yeah, there definitely were some tweaks. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the phenomenon that it happened, that you just described, which is why I kind of feel like these changes are now a little bit too hasty. I always like that Blizzard is very slow in kind of making small changes, typically. And they let the game develop by itself as much as possible. And I definitely feel that this is a situation where they should have waited a little longer and let the pros play PvZ for a little longer, and ZvP and PvZ both, and let the matchup develop. Because I think right now it's in a place where it could develop a little bit more, and balance isn't a huge concern. Or if they are going to make a change, just make smaller changes. I feel like this patch is a little more extreme than what I'm used to from Blizzard, or a little bit weirdly timed. And whether it's the phenomenon you described is, a huge part of that or not, I think it's some part of that, but it doesn't really matter if we can describe how we've gotten to this point completely, but I think there's a little bit something wrong here.
Well, I think that's actually going to be the end of the show. We got to get going. Some people got to leave, and Steven, obviously, thank you for coming on. And everyone watching, go over to Destiny's stream. They're doing a 24-hour